hi. I didn't see you there.
Oh, hey, friend.
Hello.
You just happened to be sitting there
With
a guitar in your hand.
guitar in my hand.
That's a good-looking guitar.
Yeah, this is they make these guitars now.
Do they?
Yeah.
And what does one do with a guitar these days at your house?
Smash it.
Wow. Okay.
Welcome to Prison Breaking with Sarah and Paul. I'm Paul.
So, episode 208.
Yes.
Deadfall. We talked about this episode actually a little bit in 206 when we were talking to Eric Norris because
Yes.
it has a for real stunt in it.
2 for real stunts in it.
What's the other one? I'm thinking of the
tree. This just shooting under the tree.
Oh
is a
yeah, that
stunt.
whole sequence. And then the
The
motorcycle.
motorcycle thing is a real stunt.
That's bananas.
Uh-huh.
That stunt.
Uh-huh.
Because it looked like they did it into the actual river.
Yeah, and then they did the thing where
Which is-
when he splashes in, Michael appears. They did the old switcheroo too, which is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. It's so good. So good. Like a cowboy switch with a body.
Right. Cowboy switch, right.
I'm not entirely sure I've seen this episode before. Especially the very last scene. I was like, between Kellerman and Mahone. But let's so there's no guests today because we have things to catch up on. There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's do the index.
Okay. Hit it.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, Deadfall first aired on October 23rd, 2006. It was written by Zach Estrin, one of the core writers of the show, who it just comes up with so many wonderful one-liners and horrible names for Teabag. What was one? Diaper Sniper?
Diaper sniper.
Diaper Sniper.
And that Hector was standing at the altar with his spam in his hand.
Spam in his hand. Which, as someone from Hawaii who has an affinity for spam, I didn't need that. Vince Miziano directed this episode. We're going to talk about Vince in a minute because I have a connection with him. This was actually Vince's first episode of the show, but he would go on to do 2 more. Another one in season 2 and one in season 3. This episode 208, aired at 8 p.m. against Wife Swap on ABC, Deal or No Deal on NBC, and How I Met Your Mother on CBS.
Oh, New Blood.
CBS had been airing the
Class.
class in this slot. And, okay, so I wondered, we've been actually wondering all season what on earth the class was. So I looked it up last night when I was doing this little script here. It turns out I have a really good friend in it. John Bernthal was in the class.
Wow.
Along with a cast that included Jesse Tyler Ferguson,
Yep.
Jason Ritter,
Yep.
and Lizzie Kaplan.
Yeah, it was the Noah Baumbach show, right? Am I making that up?
No, I think it was David Crane.
Oh.
Maybe?
Okay.
I'm not entirely sure.
Okay.
But it won a People's Choice Award for Best New Comedy.
Okay.
And that it was canceled.
Well, there you go.
So there's Hollywood. Anyway, against all that competition, our show, Prison Break, drew 8.53 million live viewers.
To recap the episode, since we left everyone with the money in a Tule basement. Tule?
Tueli.
Still don't know how to
Tule?
say it. In Utah, basement with Sucre holding it at gunpoint. Sucre takes the bag of money all for himself, but plot twist, it's Schofield's plan all along, so they don't have to share it. They meet up later, but they have been double switched. Bagwell really has the bag, and he is driving away in a car.
I see what you did there.
Thank you. Then Sucre gets stuck in a river, forcing Schofield into a harrowing save. Sucre finds out that plot twist Mary Cruz canceled their wedding. Yay. He and Michael separate so he can go find her. Meanwhile, Lincoln finds LJ. They flee the company operatives. And Bellick and Geary realize that Bagwell, A, has the money, and B, they figure out where he's headed to find Susan Hollander, his former love who turned him to the police, landed him at Fox River. Elsewhere, Kellerman recovers the encrypted messages Dr. Sarah receives from Schofield. Dr. Sarah narrowly escapes being killed by a company operative at a payphone. She calls Bruce Bennett, an associate of her father's, for help, only to realize it was Bruce that sent them to kill her in the first part, and he's clearly working for the company. Also working for the company, big reveal at the end, Alexander Mahone, plot twists everywhere.
So Many plot twists. In world events, we're going back a little bit because we missed it. And I don't know, I thought it was worth including for some reason last night.
Okay.
On October 9th, North Korea reported that the country had, quote, successfully conducted a nuclear test.
Great.
Which stressed out everyone in the world. A week later, on October 17th, the U.S. became, this interested me, only the third country to officially reach a population of 300 million. India and China obviously having been
Wow.
The first two.
We don't have room for that,
300 million. I know. And October 25th, 2006, the Supreme Court of New Jersey unanimously ruled in Lewis v. Harris that same-sex couples are entitled to equal protection as heterosexual couples under the New Jersey state constitution. I made a mess of saying that. But, hey, bada bing, spray tans for everyone. It's great.
In pop culture, on October 9th, Google purchased the 2-year-old company YouTube for a whopping $1.6 billion with a B.
Wow.
2 days later, 30 Rock premiered on NBC, created by and starring the brilliant Tina Fey. And October 27th, St. Louis Cardinals beat the Detroit Tigers 4-2, Game 5 to win the World Series. All right, let's talk about this episode. Let's take a quick break real quick.
Do that. We'll see you right back. Okay.
Welcome back.
I have notes.
Okay.
You want to start with your notes?
Dunderpate.
Dunderpate. I looked it up.
Bagwell calls Sucre a Dunderpate.
It's another name for dunderhead.
Right, sure.
Noun informal, a foolish person, also called, dunderpate.
Okay. Since we're
big dummy.
starting kind of talking about stunts,
mm-hmm.
you had a little action in this episode. You threw a vase.
A couple of vases.
More interestingly, you ran down a fire escape. That was you, I take it.
It was me. And small
Scary?
thing, but Sarah's apartment was on. Sarah's apartment was on the stages, so we shot that separately.
Yep.
Which I think is probably why you never see her actually going out the window.
Right.
Because we wouldn't have had access
right
to the building on location, et cetera, et cetera. I'll be honest. I think it was me running down the steps. I don't remember it.
It looked like you. It looked like you.
It did.
And then probably a stunt. But how do you cut your arm with a piece of glass on TV? How does that work?
There's lots of different ways to do it. I mean, now some people just CGI it. But I believe it was one of those things where if this is the shard of glass, on the back side here, they tape a tube with blood in it. And you
kind of squeeze it out?
Like that. Yeah, or while I'm doing it, there's a special effects guy just off camera squeezing it to come out at the same time. I'm pretty sure...
Because I've also seen them where they basically put a blood pack on you, and then they put fake skin over it, and then you actually cut through that. But I would imagine
we didn't do it
that's
that
more
way.
dangerous because you're actually using something sharp.
Well, and I do remember there being a conversation on the day. They're like, we want her to cut herself,
okay,
but it's got to not look like a suicide. So you can't. There was a lot of conversations about what cuts would look like a suicide and what cuts would look like a struggle.
And then I have another question for you. We were talking about this during the rewatch a little bit. What I like to call thinking acting, which is like you're in an alley looking at pieces of paper for a good 3 scenes there. There's no dialogue except one for the audience's sake. There's another grain.
The talking to yourself, which is my least favorite kind
of
line to deliver.
Tough.
Yeah.
But the some people, you see, I don't know what this is. I don't know, because you can't really describe it, or you can't really say that there's anything technical to do. But there are some actors, even in a cutaway shot, where they're supposed to be like looking out a window and thinking about something. Where you're like, there's nothing going on there. And then some people, where you're like, they're totally figuring, they're thinking through this thing. And, you can't like do it to, if I move my eyes back and forth, it'll look like I'm thinking. Or if I think some people's instinct is, you're working all these days, you have all these scenes, and it's like, I have to go stand on a thing and they're going to shoot me and I have to be thinking, and it just fits into and I think a lot of actors are like, I don't have to do anything. No acting required.
You have to do all the same work.
You have to do all the same work. So can you explain?
Yeah.
Can you explain that, please?
Still need your actions. You still need your objectives.
Yeah.
Well, so basically my scene partner in this scene is the pieces of paper.
Okay.
Or you could say actually that they're the ghost of Michael Scofield, whatever. But you've still got to be trying to affect. You got to be doing something, right?
Yep. Action, playing an action.
Yeah, I'm. I don't know what, but puzzling.
Yeah.
I'm trying to walk my way through this labyrinth.
Yeah.
I had a lot of those scenes. I remember. There's also a bunch of stuff slightly later on where I'm in a hotel room and there's like phone book acting, and again, it's a lot of like watching the television, seeing Michael say something, realizing it's a code, figuring out the code. I find it's easier to just have the thoughts, to like literally just
100%.
have the thoughts and let somebody film them. I will say on the directing side, I have been in the position of shooting someone who's maybe newer and
they're not
these
thinking
scenes
about
don't
anything.
come super easily. And you can achieve a similar effect by being like, I want you to start looking up there at that piece of pink tape.
Okay, so this is
and
what
then
I was
want you to
asking.
look down at the green tape and then over to the side at the yellow tape.
So there is a technical solve.
You can if you have to, because if you think of nothing and just go like that with anything on your face, it does look like you're processing information. Because often when we're thinking about things,
so you can
look for it.
Right.
I think you can.
Yeah, if you do it well, you got to do it well. It reminds me of so many acting stories that I think about. One is, the one I think about all the time is in The Insider, the Michael Mann movie.
Yeah.
About
it's a great film.
the whistleblower, the tobacco whistleblower. Al Pacino plays a news producer, and he has a lot of scenes where he's like reading a fax or like waiting for phone call, and like it's so. I'm just always in that movie for some reason. I'm always like, he's thinking about something.
Yeah.
And some people say it doesn't matter what you're thinking about; you just have to be thinking about something.
Yep.
And then I saw a really interesting interview with Christian Bale. I can't remember what movie he was talking about, but he said that he had a whole. Oh, I think it might have been Big Short.
Okay.
There's so many scenes of him like with his headphones on, like just like looking at a computer.
Yeah.
He said
Such
he
a good
wrote
movie.
these long internal monologues that he would memorize.
Yeah.
For himself.
Yeah.
And that he would just run them in his head, and it would so he said it made him really self-conscious to do it without doing that. So he would kind of forget that he was on camera because he'd be like trying to remember.
I think that's really brilliant. I mean, the whole concept of an inner monologue is kind of an actory thing.
Yeah.
And in some ways, I think it's a useful tool to just take the nerves or take the stink off of whatever you're doing. Like, as soon as you think there's a camera there, it's really hard
screwed.
to focus
and
and
also,
do good work.
You also, yes.
So,
and the death, it's hard to get rid of, especially on a set with a camera, as you said, even with another actor, to not be aware of what's going into the lens.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then when you're alone, you're like, the lens is the only thing you're kind of interacting with. So to your point, you had to make an action.
I think they were pretty good about being long lensy on a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, they were. But even like, how's this coming off? You can be very conscious of, is this indicating, which an actor never wants to do, is this indicating the right thing? I'm touching my face. I'm, you get very self-conscious. Anyway, I wanted to say, I thought you do it really, really well. And
thank you.
It's also, she seems smart. Which she is, but like that's also another thing where it's like it comes off as smart. I don't know why.
Well, and
Maybe
there's
'cause you're
something
smart.
interesting that happens, I think, but about Kellerman, Sarah, and Michael is
And
you
Mahone.
realize like they're all, well, not Mahone in this episode, but in this one, Sarah and Kellerman are figuring
That's
this
cool.
out
by
around the
way.
same time.
That's cool. I really like that.
And there's a sense that like these are like Michael may be the mastermind, but these two can keep up.
Yeah.
And they can keep up with each other and they can keep up with him. And I think that that sets up an important dynamic for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was Tarantino who said the thing about like if the villain isn't smarter and as smart or more or as powerful or more than the hero, then there's no drama.
You don't care. Yeah, you don't care. Something else about that scene. This is
in
a
the
small
alley
thing.
or
In the alley, or no, not in the alley. In the like the tunnel, whatever, the like under the bridge, deciphering everything.
yeah.
There's a wide shot, and you see my shoes, and that is significant just because I had some conversation. I had fought really hard for super comfortable shoes.
Smart woman.
That season, because I was like,
Smart
we're going to be
woman.
running around like crazy. I had really comfortable shoes season 1, and there was a little bit of a thing, and I can't remember what it was, but it was something like I saw a pair of shoes, and I was like, these are comfortable. Let's get them for the show. And someone didn't love them, and I remember saying in front of our DP it might have been a producer, or maybe it was a DP, I can't remember, but I was like, you will never see my shoes in season 2. Like, you've got to be kidding me. This show lives from the belly button up. No one sees shoes. There's like one shot of Lane's shoes as he's walking up to Deborah Jean's place, but like this is not a show where you see people's shoes. We're never that wide. And as we were shooting this scene, the DP, I think it was Fernando Rojas, it might have been Bobby Labonte, I can't remember.
It was Fernando.
Came up to me and was like, I shot your shoes.
Ah!
And I was like, you son of a bitch. And he was just like, he's like, I just had to prove you were wrong. And I was like, it'll never make the cut. It'll never make the cut. And he's like, you're sitting. And I was like, it's gonna make the cut. And he came when he saw, like, he was, because they color time and they edit and stuff. I remember he came a couple of weeks later. He's like, your shoes are in the cut. And I was like, duh. So it became this big thing, and it just sort of made me laugh.
That's really funny.
It was sort of dumb.
That's really, really. It's so.
It's weird inside baseball. I don't know if we've ever seen Kellerman's shoes.
I was just noticing shoes. That in this, because he's standing in her apartment going and he's kicking her mail around, that you do.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Wait, there was something you wanted to talk about in that scene. You said you remember that scene really well.
I just remember shooting it really well, and I was doing some of my first thinking acting.
Thinking acting?
Yeah. I had to do some in season 1.
Okay.
But more here, and it was fun.
Yeah, it was kind of nice. Which brings us to the director, Vince Miziano.
Yeah.
Who I remember really liking. He was one of the directors who made an impression on me. I was really happy to see him back later in the season. I wasn't in season 3, neither were you, so we didn't get to work with him when he did that. But years later, this would have been 2019 or 2019. I was doing Council of Dads in Savannah, and a guy shows up to direct one of our episodes named Chris Miziano, who is Vince's brother.
Yes.
They are directing brothers.
Yes. Like the Zisks.
And like the what?
Randy and Craig Zisk.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. And it was just really kind of lovely to have that connection.
Yeah.
And Chris Miziano, for those of you who are West Wing fans, had done an S-ton of The West Wing, won an Emmy for The West Wing.
And so did Vincent.
Did he?
I wasn't he did sure some. I don't think he did as many as Chris.
As Chris did?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, the Miziano brothers are absolutely brilliant. Treat yourself if you can ever work with either one of them.
Yeah. And I remember just bugging him about West Wing because I was such a fan.
Yeah, absolutely. Were you ever almost on that show?
Nope.
It feels like you would have auditioned for that.
Okay, so now you sound like my aunts who used to be like, why aren't you on West Wing? I was like, oh, I didn't think of that. I should be.
No, just
it's like you're a white guy. You can wear a tie. Like, I don't understand. Like,
no, it's not that. It's because you're smart and you're fast talking, and I believe that you would work on. I believe that you could work on the Hill. I mean, your brother basically does, right? Like
he's in politics, yeah.
But you're so in that world of like fast talking, intellectual suit wearing. I would absolutely embody.
I know what you mean. Globalist.
Yeah, I mean,
globalist.
Look, I wouldn't have
Jew.
Let me put it this way: I never would have said to Dom, "Why weren't you in the West Wing?" Do you know what I mean? Like that's not Dom's genre. It's not.
Okay. Fair enough. Let's talk about. You know what I want to talk about is Kim Coates, who plays the internal. I don't know what you call that. What do you call it?
Yeah, it's like internal affairs kind of guy,
kind of investigating Mahone's, which is also a great piece of writing.
Mahone
on a number.
Your Mahomes thing is adorable.
On a number of levels. One, like you said when we were watching the rewatch, it's the first episode where Mahone he is losing some authority, or people come in that are above him. First, it starts with the internal affairs guy, and what they're really teeing up is the scene at the end with Kellerman, because what the internal affairs guy is saying is, why did two guys that you're hunting end up dead?
Right.
This is
two guys you're supposed to bring in alive,
and,
if at all possible.
And it shows obviously that Mahone is hiding something, but also there's a twist in it where he ends up having status over that guy.
Yeah. But it also doesn't seem like he knows that's coming. Like, at least the way he played the scene, it was interesting to me because it felt like for a minute Mahone was like,
I'm in trouble. I think that's
I'm in
a little
legit
bit
trouble.
of a,
and then the phone call comes.
I think it's a little bit of a messing with the audience, because he does say to Kellerman, you could have gotten me out of there earlier, but it still plays either way. I guess you're right. So you're right about, you may be right about that. But I thought that it was, first of all, Kim Coates is great. He obviously
Kim Coates is
went
great.
on to,
Kim Coates is also Bill Fichtner's best friend.
He also went on to big success with Sons of Anarchy, right?
Yeah, it's fantastic in SOA. But he's also one of those actors who's just been good in everything he's done for 40 years.
And it's such
like,
a great.
he's amazing.
Maybe they cast him because he's Bill's friend or Bill suggested him, whatever. But like, there is roles like that are hard. You have to come in and have status over somebody who has status over you in real life.
Yeah.
Like it's it's Bill Fichtner, he's a big deal actor. It's a big deal show. You have one scene where you have to be dominant. Now, a lot of that has to do with Bill giving that status up.
Giving the status, absolutely.
But Kim Coates takes it, and he has a great amount of gravitas. And
he's an actor who wears implicit threat very well.
And authority.
Yeah.
There was no mustache twirling. I just thought it was excellent.
No.
He looks a little like Rufus Sewell, huh?
Oh, I've never thought about that before.
Kind of an American, less refined Rufus Sewell. Okay.
Kim Coates, interestingly, Canadian.
Yeah, that's what you said.
And I loved that scene between you and Bill at the end, because again, it feels in some ways like the return of Kellerman, because there's been so much loss of status.
Yes, with
to Reggie's character, to Kim.
Yeah.
That there's a little bit of a like, oh, he's going to come back with this whole decoding the birds thing.
Yeah, and it does feel like Kellerman is pushed, especially once they screwed up the Sarah murder.
Yeah.
That Kellerman is back to try to protect the president when he says the thing about there's too many bodies under the rug.
Yeah, you can't even stand on it.
Yeah.
I would have loved a response from Reggie's character about like, what are the odds that another 5'8" brunette was going to walk over and make a phone call?
Sure.
She was saved in some ways by
isn't it also a little
dumb
sloppy
luck
to just gun her down? Like with a machine gun? Like it was like, oh, these narco barons wanted her dead. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe. Actually, it might have been, right?
A drug thing.
If it's a drug thing,
Okay.
if it's a Sarah's drug dealer, gunned her
Fair
down.
enough. I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah.
My guess is that would have been a stunt woman, right?
Yes. Yeah. I remember that on the day because all she had to do was walk, be
get squibbed,
and
die.
That's
no joke. Those were big squibs too.
Those were big squibs and relatively close to her face.
And good. I gotta say, good death.
Good death.
She did a good job.
Good death. Yeah. I'm still so far this season most impressed by Lane's.
Lane's death is wonderful.
Car riddled with bullets against a car, eyes open.
And then the slump eyes open thing is
Yeah.
great. John Hurd's eyes
well
open were open too. I noticed.
Oh yeah, which is so creepy.
Yeah, it's so upsetting.
So creepy. By the way, please jump in with any additional questions you've got. But I put together a good list of some fan questions for us because we did not answer any last week.
Okay.
So we can.
I have one story. Then let's take a break and do fan questions.
Oh yeah.
The scene with Fichtner, with Mahone and Kellerman at the end. I remember shooting it so well. It was very hot. Dallas Street. They were just picking it up. And I was nervous to work with Bill. I'd never worked with him before. And I don't think he would mind me telling this. He was passing a kidney stone. Which is I've never had it.
Oh my God. I've heard it's the most painful
thing. Male childbirth, the closest a male's ever going to get to childbirth.
Yeah.
And
oh my God.
I was in awe of him. Because he's not even, I'm sweating in the scene. He's not even sweating in the scene. And he just, first of all, he didn't make it anybody else's problem.
Yeah. No, Billy wouldn't.
And his acting was completely on point. And I just remember being whoa. Just very
that's a gangster move right there.
Impressed.
I wonder if we ever get him on the pod, I would love to ask him if, that acting thing where you have the flu and 102-degree fever.
And then it goes away for a second.
You're on stage and for all of your scenes, you're fine. Yes. I wonder if it went away or if
I remember him being
playing.
I remember him being quite uncomfortable.
I mean, he played it really well, actually, because you get a sense that he's in a little bit of emotional pain.
Well, yeah, sure.
At this whole thing, damn.
So is the implication? Yeah, I think the implication is Kellerman knows about Shales, right? Or that the company knows about Shales. So they're leveraging him.
I think so.
Yeah.
It's the P tape, right?
Yeah, that totally worked.
Nailed it.
Yeah. Okay.
By the way, next time we talk about Billy, ask me about microcuts.
Ooh. Okay.
We will handle that later. For now, let's take a little break.
And then
we have fan questions. Great. So welcome back. We have been, along with our intrepid producer, Ben Haber, assembling fan questions from our Instagram.
What does intrepid
Also,
mean?
some of you have been putting questions on Discord. For those of you who are in the Discord community, thank you so much.
Love that.
And some of you emailed them, and we even have one that came in on our callback line, our call-in line, which is very exciting. I want to start with this one because it really made me think. And Paul, I'm going to kick it to you. At Alicia LISNYJ came in on Instagram. What big plot changes do you think would have been made to the show if it was filmed in 2025 instead of 2005?
That is a heck of a question. That's a big question.
It is a heck of a question. Do you want to think about it and backbrain it while we answer the rest?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Give me a minute.
Yeah, let's let that percolate because I was thinking about it last night as I was putting this together.
That's a really interesting, good question.
And I feel like we're going to continue to have answers that pop up over successive episodes.
I think we've addressed some of those things, but we should talk more about it. I mean, well, a few things come to mind, but let's keep asking. We'll circle back to that.
All right. This one came. I just thought this was a cool idea. I wanted to share. This one came in from Discord. Pierluigi DiMaggio asks, "What do you think about a Prison Break spinoff about Alex Mahone and the Oscar Shales murder?"
I think that's a great idea.
I am so here for that.
Same.
I think
a flash like a young Mahone, young Shales.
It's a prequel.
Yep.
Or it's current Alex Mahone.
Oh.
And the son of Oscar Shales, who has been tracking him for. And partly because I just want to see Billy play Mahone again.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. You could do it like Old Man, where there's people playing them younger, people playing them older, and you can get both. And we can have both.
It could be
best of both
so
worlds.
fun.
Oh,
It could
for
be so
Luigi,
fun.
that's a great idea.
Yeah. Somebody at Hulu or Fox or 20th or whoever owns the show now.
Okay, I got one for you.
Luigi. What's
From
that?
Choch, CIACH012. Is it easier for you to have co-stars who you are friends with, or is it better when you don't know the person? Having such intense scenes with Paul in this season, even more with Wentworth, the vulnerability in many scenes, the emotions, etc. Does it make it easier knowing them well? What difference does it make if next to you is a complete stranger?
You know, it's funny. We've kind of talked about edges of this. I think it can work either way. It really depends on the scene. So showing up on set to meet someone, let's say you've got a small role in an independent film and they can't afford to fly you out a week early and put you up in a hotel. And so you show up and you meet someone in hair and makeup and you're supposed to have been married for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
That is not my favorite thing to do with a stranger.
Right.
It really helps if you've got some kind of
Yeah.
relationship with. That's a moment where if I'm Billy Fichtner, I go, hey, can you get me Kim Coates because we've been friends for 20
we're
years,
supposed to have known
and it would be
each
great
other.
to do. Right. I will say there are times when being with somebody you don't know can be easier to be vulnerable because there are times when it can work out just fine because you're opening up to somebody without any history or baggage. Obviously, with Wentworth, I was very grateful to be doing those scenes with somebody that I had built a trust with.
You didn't, for instance, you didn't know him before Prison Break.
No, and as we talked about in season 1, our characters walk the same path that we did as people.
Exactly.
Not in terms of falling in love, but in terms of starting as strangers and developing a very intimate friendship.
Yes.
And that mattered. How about you?
I think it's a triangulation. I think you kind of hit it on the head. I think it depends on what's required of the acting. Like if it's not necessarily just vulnerable or emotional, but like like you said, is it somebody you're supposed to have known for 20 years?
Yeah.
And then what is your relationship with the actual actor? I think it can play either way. It really depends on what the assignment is, right? I think it works. For instance, if you really know somebody well and you're supposed to have never known them, that's easier to play than what you described, which is I've actually never met this person, but we're supposed to have grown up together. Right. That can be harder. Right. Although there are those people you meet where you immediately have that thing.
Yeah, there are. And it happens more on movie sets or television and film sets, in my experience, than anywhere else. Because we are so open to each other often, I find that there are more people that I've met, and within a week, I'm like, how were you never a part of my life?
Right. And also
before?
I think that, you know, the concentration of people that do what we do becomes much, much greater than it does just out in the world. So suddenly there's a commonality amongst people where normally if you go to a coffee shop, well, I live in LA, so that may not be the best example, but in a regular place, you go there and like, you're not going to bump into somebody that has had anything similar to your life experience a lot of the times, or interests or educational interests. And then suddenly on a movie set, you're like, even though you didn't walk necessarily the same path, you're like, I see you. Oh, what was your family like? How, they wanted you. Oh, I see. Like there's just an immediate shorthand. Yeah. So I think you could play either way. I think, the last thing I'll say about it is I think there's like I was saying about Fichtner and Kim Coates and status and coming into a thing where there's no status. I think that if you're on, this is a kind of a side piece to what Judge 012 asked. But as an actor who is in an established place on a set, that is, let's say, a series regular, someone who's been there a lot, the person who's coming in, it's your job, whether you know them or not, to help them overcome that newness. Like if they have to have status over you, you have to give that status. If they're supposed to be very, very familiar with you, you should probably lead that familiarity, because coming into that situation just socially, professionally, before the cameras are rolling, is like, if they don't know where the makeup trailer is, they don't know how the thing works, they don't know what the vibe is. So the dynamic that Chacho 012 points out is at work all the time. It just depends on the particulars.
And I think it's one of the reasons military brats and actors
Interesting.
Make friends really quickly for that reason. Like if I meet someone in hair and makeup and we're supposed to have a relationship, we can have a conversation in 45 minutes that will get us there if we need to. Like I remember meeting Jeff Stultz. And we were supposed to play people who had a kid together and divorced and whatever. And like from the time I shook his hand to the time we were shooting 2 hours later, I was like, great. Like there's that like, oh, you know so-and-so and you did this and blah, blah, blah. And there's that ability to go, I'm going to dive off the cliff with you, hold my hand, let's go. And I think that's cool. I like that about it.
I love that about it.
I love that about actors.
John Carroll Lynch said, I saw him at I don't know, same agency or something. You know who that is? The guy, he's like the husband in Fargo, and he's in everything. Big.
I'd probably know if I saw him.
He said, we're carny folk. You know, we're circus folk.
Totally carnies.
And then Meryl Streep Mike Nichols said about Meryl Streep in Silkwood, for instance, he said, and I'm not saying we're all Meryl Streep, but we all try to be, is that she probably unconsciously shifts her soul a little bit. You know, like he said, when they were shooting Silkwood, she became best friends with Cher. He said she kind of had, whether it was an actual love affair, a kind of love affair with Kurt Russell. Right. You know, it's like these things develop, and that's why I think that's why people get confused and fall in love. Sometimes they stay in love, but sometimes it's context dependent.
But also, like, I mean, I definitely had a level of devotion and loyalty to Wentworth.
Yes.
That, whether or not it was healthy is an open question, but like, was singular.
Yep.
You know, and like, I'm a very sort of medievally loyal person.
Yep.
And so I do have friendships like that. Yep. But in terms of like, on that set, in the state of Texas, in the state of Illinois, when we were like, I would have jumped in front of a fucking bullet for him.
I had a similar thing on Private Practice with, you know, I'd known Kate Walsh since I was 22 or 23 years old, and we were still very, very good friends. But me and Brenneman, you know, we're supposed to play these best friends. We had done this one thing together, but we were immediately like, boop. Yep. And like kind of went through that experience together, even though our characters were in different romantic relationships or da-da-da-da. And, you know, I was still as close as ever with Kate, but it was like not show specific.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. And it's not like a pretentious acting exercise. It happens naturally.
Mike Nichols is interesting to identify it as a soul thing. By the way, for those of you who don't know, Mike Nichols has passed away, but is an absolutely brilliant director of theater, film, and television. And I don't know if he ever did TV.
He did Angels of America, actually, on HBO.
Oh, yeah. God, which I don't even think of as
me neither.
TV. But yes. But there is some soul version of it, which is why it can be so profoundly dislocating when you wrap and you go back to your other life and it can be very weird. And I think it's involuntary. I think it's part of what makes us actors is we sometimes just kind of go, you know, we're doing this now. And sometimes it lasts, you know, like I've got some friends that I've been on sets with that, you know, where none of it changes. And then there are certain,
it's also
things that are only in a bubble.
You know, it's also a pressure cooker. It's a place where things are forged. Yeah. Kind of in fire, which is great.
Foxhole.
Yeah.
At Nancy CP71 wants to know, does Kellerman have a love life? I wanted the answer to this too, as soon as I read it.
There is an intimation at the end of season 2 that he's in love with Caroline Reynolds, and that she's
yeah,
that she's kind of teased him, like that she's
Right.
kind of like breadcrumbed him into sticking around. They never made
Right.
much of it.
Right.
I know that in four, I had a wedding ring on when I was a congressman, and that I know that in 5,
When you were a congressman?
yeah. When at the very, I came for one, like at the end of 4 was the end, right? And then we came back for 5, right, in 2016 or whatever.
Oh. Okay. Yes.
At the end
Yeah.
of 4, like with the end of the,
I thought you meant episode 4 this
No,
season. That's
sorry.
why I was trying to figure it out.
the end of 4, yeah, I had a wedding ring on.
And then you came back without it.
And then in 5, and it was something about my kid. I was I think in the scene where Teabag breaks into the house. I think I'm on the phone with my ex-wife. There's some talk about custody or something. But to your
at
point,
this
love
moment,
life,
There's not like
it didn't seem like no.
married to the job.
Yeah, a little bit. Doesn't seem like a sexual being to me, or particularly
enough.
romantic.
That all of a sudden
Although I could see him
made
having
me
a thing.
think about how he could go out on a first
Owen
date.
Krivecki, on the other hand, he was getting after it.
Owen Krivecki's the ladies'
yeah,
man.
yeah, with all that buffalo jerky.
Oh no.
What? That's what. That's what he was a buffalo. He was
I
a
know.
buffalo.
I know. I'm still flagging that play.
Okay, fine.
What else do we have here?
Okay, from Rafael Pascoal via Discord. I'm curious about how some Prison Break actors feel about being so strongly associated with their characters. When you look at Sarah's Instagram comments, significant portion are still about Prison Break. Same is true about Went. Sarah's played many other great roles. Does it affect you? Is it a curse? Is it a blessing? Feelings, thoughts? We got into that with the Stacey Keach episode regarding Stacey, but how do you feel about it?
Well, I feel like we've touched on bits of this throughout. Oddly, this morning, I'm going to take that question in a slightly different direction, because I have this on my phone case, which is a pride flag.
Y'all means all?
And y'all means all. And I recently posted something that was a selfie in the mirror where people could see it. And this has happened a few times. And the online reaction to it from some people is, I will use the word uncharitable. Because I am more polite than they are.
That's disappointing.
And I think part of my answer to that question has to do with why I don't think Wentworth will be on the podcast and why he said he won't do the show again, which is because he doesn't want to play straight characters anymore. And I respect that as an artist, but it also really, the dissonance between people who love the show and who choose to be anti-queer is one that I'm struggling with right now, today. Because when I see that negativity and judgment and uncharitable reaction on my socials, I think, man, that's pretty easy for me to shoulder. I'm just disappointed, I'm just like, I wish you felt differently. But I know that people who are in the queer community themselves are being targeted. And I understand that Rafael is probably not asking this question in this way.
Not quite, but your point is important.
Well, and my point is that Sara Tancredi would be very powerfully aligned with the queer community,
sure. But
as an ally, and
and
I think it's wild the way Wentworth played a character that was both white and straight, and he is neither exclusively, and
yeah, tough.
And that's not easy.
No,
that's not easy.
It goes to a kind of subset of her question which goes to kind of a sense of ownership.
Ownership that fans have over characters.
Over the show, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the fun. But, confusing a person with their character is always
I think genuinely dangerous in some circumstances.
Slippery.
Super.
And, people, I don't consider gay rights politics. I consider it human rights. So I would say people can disagree about politics. I think disagreeing about human rights is a different story.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I guess this is a separate point, but part of the question being identified with your character is a question of boundary on people's parts and what they feel like they can say to you because they have seen you on television and like a character of yours. Like, why are you getting old? It's like, well, here's how time works.
Yeah. I don't know if you skipped that day.
I also think there's a bit of a language barrier. There's a lot of don't get old. Why are you getting old? But, I think similar on my Instagram, like I could post about anything and I would say about 20 to 25% of it is just misspelled or Kellerman ! Kellerman, which I love. I love all of them. I take screenshots of the really great ones. I have no problem with it, like artistically. I'm glad the show and the character resonates with people. I think I personally get it enough from other characters.
It's not the primary one for you.
It's the primary. Well, it's demographic specific. And
sure.
and it is
and probably country specific,
and it is also cyclical in terms of like what's being replayed where.
Yeah,
like
what's on
like
Netflix.
Private Practice was on Netflix for a while, and there was a huge difference in like when Girlfriend's Guide was like it's that thing, and the Kevin Hart show came out. It was like, oh, everyone. I was like, oh,
yeah. And I will say, like, as just one final button on that for me, it is the answer to that question is part of why I wanted to do Lori on The Walking Dead, because she was 180 from Sarah.
Right.
And those two characters are important to me because it stops you from being pigeonholed. We've probably got time for another one or two of these.
Okay.
Here's a quick one for you.
Yeah.
Sweet CXO.
Okay.
Wants to know, which two Prison Break characters do you wish worked together or worked together more? Do you have any like pairings?
Oh.
That like in your mind? Oh, we still haven't answered that one about what would be different in 2005 instead of 2025.
Yeah, well, that's gonna be a long conversation. Maybe we should punt that one.
Yeah, we can hang on to that for later. We can just be thinking about it. But any like
I feel like they mixed everyone up pretty
pairings,
darn well.
I would have liked to have seen Westmoreland.
Oh, I would have loved. I didn't have any scenes
Longer.
with Bellick. I would have loved some scenes with.
You had no
with
scenes with Wade?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have enough with Wade for sure.
I would have enjoyed that.
I would have liked Westmoreland and Pope.
Oh, right.
Like the elder statesman.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen. There's another. All right, so there's another prequel thing that Pierluigi got us onto these ideas. I would love to see 5 episodes of what Westmoreland's first 6 months at Fox River were like when he was young and Pope was young, and they were
Shawshank.
both. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, there's a good spinoff.
Right? That could be fantastic.
Yeah. We should start writing fan fiction.
We could.
No, we shouldn't.
We won't.
All right. I think we should wrap it up.
Okay. There's another one or two of these that I want to answer later because I think they're really fascinating. You guys are crushing it. With
the
these
questions are great.
And there is now one shout out that we have to
Yeah. So before we wrap it up, we got a call in on our call in line, which we love when people call in 401-3P break from Rebecca, who's 14 years old. She called into our call line and she left a message asking us to give a shout out to her brother Will because it would make Will's week. Well, Will, here we are.
Your sister's awesome.
Shouting you out and shouting out that you probably have the best sister in the world.
Your sister's fantastic.
Yeah. Treat her nice.
Treat her nice. Because she just did something nice for you. Hope you guys are good
and stay out of
and
prison.
be well. And stay out of prison. Yeah. That's advice from Uncle Paul. Stay out of prison.
Thank you to all our Fishes folks and friends for listening. We invite you to subscribe to the Watch Party episodes where you can watch the show with us live and listen to our hilarious and insightful commentary. It's available to our subscribers. Join the Patreon link on the show page wherever you're listening right now.
And over on YouTube, besides the video edition of this season, you can go back and listen to season 1 episodes translated into your language.
Amazing. We live in the future.
Which we still think is really cool technology.
Yeah.
So thank you, everyone, and be excellent to each other. Prison Breaking with Sarah and Paul has been a Caliber Studio production.
Your hosts have been inmates Sarah Wayne Callies and Paul Adelstein.
Our prison warden is producer Ben Haber.
The frontman of our jailhouse rock band is Paul Adelstein, who made all our music.
Our prison yard tattoo artist, logo, and brand designer is John Nunziato and Little Big Brands. Check them out at www.littlebigBrands.com.
Follow us on Instagram and YouTube at Prison Break Podcast. Email us at pppodcast@caliber-studio.com and call us at 401-3-P-Break.
Prison Breaking with Sarah and Paul has been a Caliber Studio production. Thank you for listening.